Wow. So would you believe we got picked up for a season two? Here we are, SaaS Showdown, back for after a very successful season one with some glowing reviews online and positive comments from friends and family. Here we are. I'm Colin McCarthy and I'm joined by.
I'm Rose Layton.
So, yes, it's Colin and Rose back for season two of SaaS Showdown to talk about SaaS and SaaS Ops. So, episode one, we are doing video. As you can see, it's probably going to get better over time. We'll work out how to do virtual backgrounds and all that other stuff. But welcome, everybody. We're going to collaborate and we're going to talk about a subject that you wanted to bring up, Rose.
Yeah, so today I thought maybe we would talk about document collaboration. And this is something that I think that many of us in our jobs don't necessarily give a lot of thought to because there's kind of a few defaults out there, and we'll talk about that. But what brought this up for me was in my current organization, we are having a little standoff between Dropbox paper and Google Docs. And more, I have noticed that Google is adding features that compete directly with Dropbox paper features. So, yeah, I just wanted to bring that to the table and let's talk about document collaboration.
Yeah, yeah, because it has got a lot more complicated. You would think it would get easier as technology progresses, but it's actually been getting harder, I think, with the proliferation of different SaaS applications out there and different storage options as well. Because not only is there
Mhm.
your file format, but that file format of the document that you're working on, but also where it can be stored as well. File storage can become just an important part. And it's interesting when you look back to well, initially it was complicated as well. You know, you would
Mhm.
have WordPerfect files, you would have a text editor with, text documents or an RTF document. You would be sent a WordPerfect or a Word file, and you wouldn't have the right version of the piece of software, and you would try and open it, and then you wouldn't have the right font installed, so everything would look wrong. Obviously that's why something like PDFs became very popular and sort of took on, because it was, you didn't matter what font you had installed on your machine, you would get a copy of the document as the person expected you to see it. So
Did
did
you
you
know
used
that
to have?
WordPerfect is still around?
I was surprised to see that. I was surprised to
Yeah,
see
the
that.
latest version is WordPerfect 2021, released in May 2021. I'm going to be
Wow.
honest with you, Colin. This is a bit of our generational gap here. I have never used WordPerfect.
Wow. I didn't use Word Perfect back in the day. I remember I had a word processor on my on DOS on my Amstrad 1640, which was my first IBM compatible computer. I think it was called, I think it had multi in it. It was Multimate Pro or something, or multimedia, multi something. It was a text-based text program for writing documents, and I thought it was very curious and strange at the time, because I wasn't really, writing that many documents
Mhm.
and printing stuff out and writing letters.
That's true.
Um,
Yeah. I think back in the day, I can't remember writing nearly as much as I do now. Um, Even just like personally, I'll like pull up a doc to, take notes on something or like write instructions for something or, design something pretty for one of my hobbies or something
yeah,
like that. But
yeah,
like looking back, like I definitely had fewer reasons to write
yeah. Well,
anything significant.
people generationally, you missed out on the Filofax days,
I
and
did.
probably those little leather bound books. What were they called? Moleskins. in
Oh, I
in
mean, moleskins are
early
still a thing.
I know they're still a thing, but they were a huge thing in the early 2000s and late 90s. Everybody
That's
in
true.
in
Well, and
London
everything
that
used to
I
be about
saw.
handwritten notes. The irony is, I still do take handwritten notes most of the time. I use sticky notes for them. My desk is one of
Yes,
those ones that's covered in sticky notes. But obviously, that's not collaborative, right? That's like personal stuff.
that's
How
an
did
in.
did people collaborate on documents? How did people collaborate on documents? Tell me, Colin. Teach me. Teach me the olden ways.
I don't think they did. I think they were very. I never. Yes, I am older. Yes, I've been in technology a lot longer. But we weren't in the fields that I was in IT support and telephone support. We weren't collaborating on documents. We weren't sending a document to somebody asking for a revision and getting it back. But I remember being involved of some of that, and you would get track changes within Word.
Mm-hmm.
You would sometimes people would use a different color font so you could see what they
Had entered, yeah.
had edited and entered. Yeah.
And I
um
mean, before that, the word redlining comes from literal red pen against paper. So
yeah, yeah.
now
So
we do it all virtually.
historically, and it was interesting that you said about sticky notes, and that's an almost sideways uh here's some cats meowing in the background. It's
Yep.
not a
SaaSOps cat is about to join
podcast.
us.
It's not a SaaS Showdown podcast episode without a cat or two joining. But yeah, notes, sticky notes, OneNote, Notion, Keep, Evernote.
Mm-hmm.
That is all collaboration, and that a lot of that is personal note taking, but then a lot
Well,
of that is
I guess,
also
is it
collaborative.
collaboration?
You can share those notes with other
That's
people.
true. That's true.
Even on Google Keep, I've used Google Keep to collaborate on a shopping list. You have your little tick
Yeah.
boxes, and you have your communal house shopping list in a Google Keep document. But
Yeah,
for
you can use
this,
the like Mac Notes app too
and
to
that
collaborate on
probably
notes and things.
syncs to iPhone, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So you have or through your iCloud, but let's stay more focused on Docs and
Yep.
Word, I think, because they are by default the two competing document formats. But is something that isn't actually physical, not that a Word document is physical, is it really a document format, and does it really matter?
Uh, well, I guess the thing is like the to me the definition of document has gotten pretty broad, right? There's a lot of different types of files these days that I would consider collaborative documents that may not be doc compatible. If
Mm-hmm.
you catch my drift, right? So like you know, we would be remiss to kind of throw out the boxes and the drop boxes of this kind of niche because like you can store anything in those, um, usually in their native format. And so, like, if you have, for instance, wireframes or, um, images, videos, any kind of design work, sometimes even like project files, like, from
Mm-hmm.
like a Canva-esque kind of thing. Like you can store those in collaboration tools and work on them with live versioning even if it's not live collaboration. So I feel like we'd be remiss to sort of skip over those,
But is that a
although I do think if for the most part document collaboration applies to the white sheet of paper looking thing. No.
right? And it's interesting how you called it a sheet of paper.
Because it's made to look like a sheet of paper,
It
even
is
though
because
the debate rages
that's
on
what.
the page versus page lists.
Yes,
Doesn't
yeah,
need to
and
look
which
like it can be
is
printed out anymore.
yes, and I think some of those sort of borderless, pageless document collaboration platforms, and certainly with the expansion of the whiteboarding applications that are out there, which are also used for obviously for collaboration. Um, also, can be considered. It's interesting where you mentioned Dropbox and Box. Now, are they a collaboration platform? Are they
Dropbox
a store
has paper.
or hang on a second, let me finish
Yeah.
my definition. Or are they a storage platform that allows you to collaborate in? Because obviously, as you said, one of the good things is you can put anything in there, and then
Yeah.
obviously you can collaborate on that one version of your Adobe Photoshop file or your project Microsoft project file. Although if
I
you're
would
using
argue that it makes
Microsoft,
them more collaborative than something with a more limited file storage system. Like, I mean, when you upload things to SharePoint, you don't collaborate within SharePoint, right? Like, it depends entirely on the thing you've just uploaded, and where you open it. Because even like live editing in the desktop versions of Microsoft are not really a thing.
right?
Um,
Yes, yeah. We could have
yeah,
a whole argument and architectural discussion about those technologies that sort of
right.
cobbled together, and
Well, and
obviously
but
a lot of
Dropbox
it.
has created an environment where you can edit some of those documents, even though they're not considered native to the file storage system. They've created editors where you can do at least light editing. Google did that too with
Mm-hmm,
Word and Excel, right? Giving us the ability
yeah.
to lightly manipulate the document without having to convert it to the proprietary system.
Yes, a lot of them are getting a lot better at doing that. So it doesn't matter what you don't. It doesn't matter what application you have installed on your computer or online version you're using. You can normally edit the document that is sent to you in your preferred editor. That's one of the things I like about Box. I've used it as a customer. Haven't deployed it, but I was
Mhm.
collaborating with somebody, and had all their documents that I was working on stored in Box, and I could connect to my Google Sheets so that I could manipulate they were Excel documents, but I could manipulate them in the online application that I was more comfortable in, while that other person probably had a copy downloaded to their laptop and was using the Box Sync tool or whatever.
Right.
To do the editing and then the uploading. So yeah, we were collaborating on a single document, but using two competing, technologies. Um,
Well, I want to go back to your question
there
about
was
do
another
file
thing you
formats
just
even matter? Well, do you want
yes,
to go to
yeah.
my thing or do you want to talk about your thing?
Um, I can't remember my thing, but it was something around that, and I'm sure we're going to meet in the middle. This is the
Well, yeah, because
live
I
and
had a
mostly
thought while you
unscripted.
were I had a thought while you were talking, which is, you have this question of like, do file formats even matter these days, right? Does it matter whether we're talking about a Word document or a Google Doc or a paper doc? I would argue that currently it does, right? It still does matter what kind of file you're talking about today as we work. If you're just talking about Google versus like Office, I think it matters a little bit less. But like when you start to add in some of the other players, some of the other file formats, like, yeah. Um, do you see a world, I guess, where everything is basically like an XML file or an HTML file
That's
being
what I was going to
read,
bring up.
yeah, by a universal sort of reader, right? Like I could see that
Yes. So
happening.
there was, yeah. So I think that wasn't that the basis of XML when it came out in 2002, 2004, whatever. It was supposed to be a document language, an extensible markup language that could be
It
interpreted
is.
by any
Yeah.
any application that you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And then also there's the Open Office and the LibreOffice open document format, which was supposed to be, available to anybody and everybody to as a sort of an open document platform or format, so that it didn't matter what application you were using.
I feel
Um,
like we need to consult some experts to figure out what happened there. But
Yeah, that sounds like a History Channel miniseries.
but looking towards the future, like, do you think we'll ever get there where everything really is essentially the same type of format and that it's all universally extensible, universally readable? Or is
And
that not a money making venture? It feels like it might not be a money making venture.
it's not money making because
You can't lock people in.
you you can't log people in and you don't have anything proprietary. Obviously, Microsoft became very big because they had Office and everybody was
Well,
using
your
Word and
editor is
it was
proprietary.
proprietary.
Yeah, your editor is proprietary. Like the types of documents you can create and the value of, the templates or various extensions that you might have, those have value and those are proprietary.
Yeah, there'll be some add-ons, but the underlying application, whether it's Word, Google Docs, LibreOffice, OpenOffice, Word Perfect, some of the other applications out there, if they're all doing exactly the same thing, and unless there's something about their format that locks that document to be only be opened by X application, um,
Right. Which would
the
defeat the
only
whole
sort of
purpose.
yeah, I think it's only on the Mac OS side that I think there's real document lock-in, like
Yeah. I guess I was sort of
Keynote.
picturing it as, go ahead.
I was going to say Keynote files.
Hmm.
Keynote files, I think, can only be opened by Keynote. Somebody can, if we had a comment section, you could correct me in the comment section. Um,
We do have a comment
but I
section.
think
This
that,
is
like
on YouTube.
that's a vendor lock-in.
Well, so I'm trying to, the way that I sort of think about it is if we had a universal sort of file format, it's like when you insert a Google drawing into a Google Doc or
Hmm.
you embed in a Google Doc, even. Um, the object is there and you can see it, but you can't really interact with it. It's just there or it's not, right? So that's not kind of how I see
Right.
these different sort of editors working together. Is like, if I opened an XML file in Figma, let's say, or Whimsical, right, and added a diagram to it,
Hmm.
I would be able to do that. And then if somebody opened that same file in a different editor, like Google Docs or Office, then they would be able to see the item, but they wouldn't really be able to interact with it because their version of their editor doesn't have the ability to interact with those objects.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do
That
you see
makes
that?
sense. That makes sense. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you can keep your
Yeah.
proprietary bit. You can't really like take
Yeah.
those and go other places. I mean, then we can get into like standardization of those object types and, what have you. But it's just like how you can PDF anything and it's a PDF.
Yeah. Yeah. And and
We needed like the
with
virtual
these,
version of that.
oh my God, could you imagine how crazy that would be if you could give somebody a PDF, but it was all the elements in that PDF were linked back to some of the other live document, so that when that live
Yeah.
document changed, it automatically referenced and updated the PDF. So, but that's sort of
Right. Like
like
it's sort of like a
online.
viewer version,
Yeah,
right, of your
yeah,
file.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That would be
But that's sort of
amazing.
like that's really Google Docs at the moment, anyway, or an online OneDrive
Yeah.
Word document, because in those documents, I think the power, and we'll go back to sort of the SaaSOps beauty and power of this online collaboration as opposed to the traditional sending of static exported files, whether it's a PDF or a Word document, is that live data, that data where if you are importing a Excel document or a chart into a Word document, it
Hmm.
can be updated as the data in that
Mhm.
chart
But
gets
only if you're
updated.
online, right?
Only if you're online.
Yeah.
Connect, and
Um,
you have the rights to view that data probably as well.
right.
So it all gets into the whole permissioning thing.
Yeah, I mean
Uh,
the objects that we're talking about inside of these documents are complex. They're not simple, right? And it does require this whole like, do you have permissions? Is your stuff integrated, right? Like, can your Office account connect to your Whimsical account, or whatever it is, um,
mhm.
and like pull those permissions, reference those permissions correctly. So like, I mean, it's not simple, but could it happen? I think I think maybe. It depends on what the priorities are to me. Like my priority as a person in IT who, cares about the productivity of my users, of course these are things that I want. I want things to be easier and more seamless for them. But do I
Yeah.
believe that the SaaS companies that we work with every day care about the fact that we have 2 document collaboration platforms, or that we're using 5 project management systems? I don't think they care. They want to be our only one. They all do.
Hmm.
But they wouldn't do that.
Yeah. I know we've
Yeah, it would require them to work together a lot more, and I don't know that they're invested in
yeah.
doing it.
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, there is companies generally have one email system. They can have multiple document management systems, document collaboration. As you said, multiple project management applications normally exist inside an organization. I would be curious to hear and find out what is the how many companies have sort of best of both. Do they just have Google Drive? Do they just have Office 365 and OneDrive? Do they allow their users to pick and choose? How do they manage that within an organization? And the one thing I picked up on, you said it should be seamless for your end users as an IT professional. You want it to be, seamless and secure.
Mhm.
With with a lot of these collaboration platforms, the power and the real added value comes into the ease of sharing them, and giving people the right access rights, and for that person to access them and do what they need to do in the simplest way, and also for the person to access that document on whatever platform they're on. Whether it's, I love being able to, quickly look at a document on my phone, using Google Docs and Google Drive on my phone. That's
Absolutely.
incredibly powerful. I've never tried OneDrive and Word on my phone,
It's okay.
on my Android phone. But yeah, I'd be wondered, like to hear in the comments what people's experience with that is.
I guess we can talk about our experience at least, right? So
Yeah,
you've worked a couple of places, I've worked a couple of places. In all the orgs I've ever worked for, there is always a use case for both that we couldn't get away from, right?
yeah.
You couldn't use just Google or just Office. On an individual personal basis, you could. But as an organization, there was always a use case, particularly for Office, because lawyers and accountants really like their things. Um, but even in Microsoft organizations, I've never entered into a Microsoft organization that didn't have some need for Google collaboration, even if it was just to be able to receive files from Google
Mm-hmm.
organizations. So, like, Google's kind of locked themselves in there. They've built this beautiful permissioning model where you can share any document live with somebody in a more secure fashion than email, but you got to have a Google account to
Mm-hmm.
access it, right? And we prefer, as an IT organization, that those accounts are managed.
Technically, you don't. You can share a Google Doc with somebody who doesn't have a Google account,
Yeah, no, I know.
if you put the tick in the box that allows that.
Yes, and it's
And then
all
they
pin
they get
code
a one
based.
time password. Yeah,
Here's the
yeah, yeah.
secret, Colin. They still technically have a Google account. It's called a visitor account, but it's still a Google account. I was in that beta. it's a visitor account that exists. Like, and I think something similar happens for Office. I've definitely ended up with an Office visitor account for some reason before,
Yeah,
but
yeah. You probably have a
um,
Microsoft account. There's a
mhm.
lot of people with Microsoft accounts.
Yeah. So there's a way around it, but it's not really a true way around it. You have a Google account, and unfortunately visitor accounts are unmanaged. And so, like, as an IT organization, you have to decide what's important to you. Like,
Right. Yeah.
do you care that your users could potentially be going and getting these unmanaged accounts? Fun facts, you can also create a consumer Google account using your work email address. Those are unmanaged accounts.
Yes.
And you can use those to create files for your company and store things. So I guess, like, as an IT organization, are we going to be okay with our users doing those things, right? Or in many organizations, that's not okay. So you have to have something on Google in order to keep your users
Yeah.
from signing up.
Yeah. Even if you've claimed your domain and then don't assign anybody licenses.
Yeah. Even if that's all you
We
do.
should do a. It sounds like a. Yep, it sounds like a topic for episode 5 or 6, maybe, to do with
Yes.
some of the best practice of SaaS security. So,
Hmm.
um,
Potential.
yeah, there are different ways to look at collaboration, file collaboration, if files even care, if you even care about your
If
file
files
formats
even
anymore.
care.
Yeah.
I don't think the files ever cared.
No, no,
Just
but do
us.
you care?
Just
But do you
us.
care what format it is? I
Yeah.
haven't received. I can't remember the last time I received a document and I couldn't open it, or where somebody had
Right.
sent me something. Um,
I do really
Certainly
hate it when
in
people send me things that I can't open. But you're right. It doesn't happen very often now.
yeah,
Pretty rare.
and if you are working with somebody who's sending you pub files from publisher, then you should certainly sit them down and ask them to reconsider the application that they're using.
Ask them to reconsider using Publisher.
Uh,
I guess
yeah.
let's just to wrap up quick. I had a question. What was my question? Just rapid fire, real quick.
Hmm.
Can you think of, like, or name one reason why you might have multiple document collaboration systems in one organization? Just name one, real quick.
Client need.
Okay.
If you have, if certainly if you're in a client services type industry, um, then you would generally meet the client where their technology is.
That's true. That's very
Whether it
true.
is using Dropbox as a file storage collaboration platform, or Google Drive, or OneDrive. Um, how about you?
Oh,
What
mine's picky users.
interesting.
Yeah, I think at some
Interesting.
point organizations grow large enough to kind of shut that stuff down, but not always. Sometimes they let those niches kind of gather, and so you end up with, um, a whole department that's on a different thing. They have the main thing that everyone
Yeah,
has,
the
right?
corporate
But
issued. Yeah.
they also just internally themselves use something else, and so,
Yeah.
um, and
And they're
usually I
probably
find that those are bred out of desire rather than technical need.
interesting. I was about to say technical need.
Yeah, no.
You think
I
it's
just told you I
desire
work
and
in an organization where
personal?
we use Dropbox paper. There's no technical need there.
I haven't looked at it enough to see what it does.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, that's the thing, is I think everything has proprietary features that people can, like, get wrapped up in and are like, I can't live without this. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure you can. It's okay. It's
yeah.
okay. It just depends on the organization's tolerance for that kind of thing,
Yes. Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
our ability to manage it fairly,
Yeah. And
because it can get
people's
pretty wild westy if you don't manage it fairly.
Yes, and people do love making beautiful documents. There is a wonderful
They do.
Scott Adams Dilbert book. You might be able to see the Dilbert poster behind me, or the little fridge magnet on my old fridge. There's Scott Adams wrote a book called I think it's the Joy of Creating Beautiful Documents. It's a whole comical look at the sometimes silly world of corporations where you are judged purely on your ability to make beautiful documents.
I judge myself on my ability to make beautiful documents. It's terrible, probably. Like, it's definitely the content is more important, but
We will have to have a display. We'll have a first Friday art gallery display of beautiful documents that people have made. I am
here you go.
terrible at making documents.
Are
I
you?
yeah, I'm envious of people who can do all of the fancy bulleting and the margin spaces, if we even have
Oh,
margins
Colin,
anymore, and
I
all of
set
the
it up as
formatting and
default.
the headings. And yeah,
Yeah, I just set all that stuff up as defaults,
can't do all
and
of
then
that. Don't
I
do it.
don't have to like. Yeah, I'm really picky too. My headers have to alternate colors, so I won't use just all monochrome colors. I'll use like whatever our like brand colors are. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
like one
yeah.
of the
You
first
need to.
things I do when I start somewhere is I put together I take their branding guide and like put together a template for
Yeah,
myself.
yeah. A lot of
Yeah.
companies will publish those branding guidelines
Hmm.
in a
Some of them
template
publish
document
templates
that you
too.
can.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We do
Yeah.
that. So
I think we
um,
have I want to say we have like 50 templates here. It's terrible. People will
I'm
just
sure they.
upload templates for everything. I don't know who's approving those.
Sounds like they
Awesome.
need a workflow. You can do template approvals in Google Drive. I do know that. And you can assign somebody with a template
We do.
approval
We have that.
admin so that they
I
can
just need to
approve
go
them to
check
be
who it is.
published to everybody.
I have
Yes.
no
Yeah.
idea who it is.
They've probably all been
It's not even
leavers, and
me.
everybody has left the organization, and nobody's approving those templates.
No, because I
There's
submitted one and it got approved.
all right.
So I
You have
just
to
don't know who approved it. Anyway,
Wow, you go and check that group, and thank you everybody for listening to another episode of SaaS Showdown, and join us again for episode 2 as we carry on our discussion about SaaS and SaaSOps.
Produced by the Tab Geeks Network. Enjoy all of our shows on YouTube at youtube.com/tabgeeks. Join our exclusive, free, no sponsors allowed Slack community and sign up for our newsletter at tabgeeks.com.